Hi everyone, welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed New Bourbon Releases Podcast, your commercial-free bourbon podcast for Monday, June 2nd. I am Ed from bourbonobsessed.com, also known on Instagram as bourbon_obsessed. I publish bi-weekly newsletters featuring the latest bourbon news and releases, and also do this podcast version for your listening pleasure. This week we have new whiskey releases from New Riff, Woodford Reserve, Milam Greene, Michters, and many others. My usual co-host, friend, and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon, could not join us this week. However, my wonderful and very knowledgeable wife, Karen, has agreed to join me. Karen, welcome back to the podcast. This is actually your second time.
Well, thanks, Ed. happy to help.
I'll give a shout out to my friend Whitney Rye, who had the soft opening of her new parlor room, which will offer tasting experiences just right there in downtown Bardstown. I went to a short soft opening tasting, and it was great, so definitely it's worth checking out when you're in the neighborhood.
Yeah, she just opened up, so she's very knowledgeable, got a nice place. She really liked her place, so yeah.
She did a great job with it.
Check out the parlor room and her tastings.
Yep. Yeah. All right, you want to dive right in?
Sure. Lead the way. You first.
Okay, so we're going to start with New Riff. So New Riff Distilling recently released their first decade Kentucky straight bourbon and rye whiskeys. These 10-year-old whiskeys are part of their high note collection and were available to New Riff Whiskey Club members on May 22nd. Unfortunately, they sold out very quickly. Therefore, if you haven't purchased them, this may be of academic interest only, because I'm not sure if any of these bottles will become available in stores or at the New Riff gift shop. Anyway, each is bottled at barrel proof, which is 120.5 for both, without chill filtration, and priced at $89.99 for 750 milliliter bottles. To get future releases, you can sign up for the New Riff Whiskey Club and be notified and be able to purchase these as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we got our bottles, is we are part of the whiskey club, and you get notified when they're going to go on sale, so we were able to get some pretty easily, but they did sell out.
Yeah, they sold that quickly, because it's a 10-year, I mean, so that's quite the milestone. I mean, some of the other releases weren't selling out quite as rapidly, or maybe there was more of them.
I don't think they have a lot of 10-year whiskey.
Yeah.
It's pushing their limit, but I'm interested. I would like to know why they do it under the high note, because their regular New Riff label, they've done an 8-year bourbon and rye, but they have not done the 10-year under that label. So, but I'm sure it's great. I think today was the last day you could go up to the distillery if you had bottles to pick up and try their do a flight of the 10-year whiskey for a really good deal.
Yeah, I think the flight was a really good deal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't make it up there. You could get the bourbon, the rye, and I think you could get the 8-year bourbon. Yeah. And it would have been like half price of what it would normally be.
And the $90 price is a great deal for 120 proof whiskey. So.
10-year. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's a really good deal. I mean, it goes more with what Dean and I have been talking about on the podcast of how prices are coming down. 6 is the new 4.
But New Riff has always been reasonable.
Yeah.
They've never, unless they were raising money for a charity, their prices have always been very approachable.
What else was in the High Note series? I guess
it was a grain whiskey, a particular I can't remember. I could look it up.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, so yeah,
because I remember when the 8-year first came
out.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so moving on. So Blue Run Spirits has announced their third Flight Series collection. The collection is comprised of 6 expressions, each crafted from no more than 4 barrels and 4 different mash bills, and each is a Kentucky straight bourbon and rye blend. The whiskeys come from Castle and Key Distillery, Bardstown Bourbon Company, and a third undisclosed distillery. The 2 rye mash bills are 5 and 6 years old, and both bourbon mash bills are 5 years old. They range from 109.9 to 117 proof and have a suggested retail price of $124.99 per bottle. What do you think of that?
Well, are all the barrels? So they get the barrels from 3 different distilleries. Are they all blended together, or because there's 6 different bottles, correct?
Right. They're just different blends of those four different.
Of those four, okay,
Yeah.
and set at different proofs. So they're not all the same proofs either. They're
Right.
109.9 to 117. So
Well, I believe they're barrel proof, so that's how they come
okay,
out. So that just
okay.
reflects
when they've been blended
their
together.
composition. Right.
Okay.
So they're all unique, very small
Batches.
blends.
Okay.
So that's why they're different.
Yeah. Well, at $124 or $125, that's a little bit. That's asking a lot for what you're getting. I mean, it is barrel proof, but I'm not sure. Yeah, the price strikes me as over the top, quite frankly.
Well, it's a bit of a standout, especially since we just said New Riff released a 10-year for $90,
Right.
and we know that both Castle and Key and Bardstown Bourbon Company's bourbons and ryes in that age range are $50.
Yep.
So with prices in general decreasing,
Right.
pricing a 5 and 6 year blend at $125 is a little high.
Well, and in the past, though, you've liked what Blue Run has put out. I mean, you've tasted a fair amount of their products, and
Right.
their blending has always been good. But this is
No, they've always been very good,
Yeah.
but I mean, to be perfectly honest, we've bought them much less frequently lately. As I mean, when they were the older,
we've bought a lot less frequently in that price range.
Yes, I mean when they were the older original undisclosed distillery at 13 and a half, and 14 years when they won their original awards, that would certainly command that kind of a price range. Sure. But now, when the component whiskeys are significantly less expensive in themselves, it's very hard to justify in this market when you can, well, apparently you can pick up a 10-year from a fairly small distillery for $90. You can pick up a bottled and bond 10-year for $60 nowadays that Henry McKenna started dropping. So it seems like the price is not reflecting market value
just yet,
but I guess we'll see how they sell, because maybe it is.
Well, you usually can find them on Sillbox. I do see Blue Run still in our local liquor stores. I hope they do well. Yeah.
All right, so our next one, Green River Distilling Company honors the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army with a commemorative bourbon release launching June 14, 2025. Bottled at 111.1 proof as a nod to Veterans Day, November 11th. This small batch Kentucky straight bourbon made up of 4 to 6 year old barrels features a mash bill of 77% corn, 14% rye, and 9% malted barley. And it's priced, so back to what market sort of is now, $49.99 for that bottle of a 4 to 7 year old at, 111.1 proof. And it's going to be available at military bases, Green River's home places in Louisville, soon to open up, actually.
Yeah, in Louisville, Kentucky.
And Bardstown, Owensboro, and I guess at Bardstown Bourbon Company, probably. And select retailers. A portion of proceeds will benefit military families through partnerships with charitable organizations supporting soldier well-being and resilience.
Yeah, well, that's exciting, but what I find really interesting, and that people may not know unless they've taken the tour, we were lucky enough to have a tour from their brand ambassador, Karen Wells, who, when she was introducing some of the old bottles at the beginning of the tour in the events place where you start, is that for 18 years, Green River had won the contract for medicinal whiskey of the U.S. Marine Hospital station in, I think it was Washington, D.C. And of course, back then, the slogan was whiskey without a headache.
Yeah, burn without a headache, yeah.
It was whiskey without a headache. So it wasn't the first time they've been associated with the military, but they're the CEO of Lofted Spirit, of Lofted Spirits, Mark Irwin, is a retired colonel.
Their parent company.
Yeah, their parent company. So this is great. I'm sure that he probably had a little something to do with that, but it's great that a lot of bourbon brands support some of the military organizations for those folks who have done service for our country. So Yeah, this is great. We'll have to definitely pick us up a bottle.
All right, our next one is from Boone County Distilling. So they announced, and actually went on sale this morning, so it's probably gone, their limited edition Portrait Series, aged 15 years. According to the distillery, in honor of the pioneers who established Boone County Distilling Company, we have meticulously crafted 4 limited edition, cask-strength single-barrel bourbons, each aged for 15 years. These are more than just rare bourbons. Each collectible bottle narrates the story of an individual who played a pivotal role in our early history. Without their contributions, our story might have been lost to time. Each barrel will be released throughout the summer, beginning with release number 1, William Snyder, on Saturday, May 31st at 10 a.m. at the Boone County Distilling Company gift shop. The proof for these is not provided, but the price is $299, but only 132 bottles of this first release are available, so I'm pretty sure that it is now noon on Saturday when we're recalling this, that these are long gone. But
Well, I checked their Instagram account, and they showed people coming in, but they haven't said that it was actually sold out yet. I can't believe that it wouldn't be.
It is hard to believe it.
$299 is pretty pricey, but of course it is a 15-year, and it is a very limited release and part of a whole set that you could collect, I guess, if you were big Boone County fans. We like we've been up there numerous times. You like their bourbon. They're just a little far for a daily drive from Lexington. But
I mean, we're assuming that this is some leftover stocks from when they were the Boone County Made by Ghosts stuff.
Is
of the
it
NGP.
Kentucky? No, it doesn't say, right? It doesn't say whether it's Kentucky or Indiana.
It doesn't say. We'd have to look at the bottle picture. I just assume when both they and New Riff released the older ones that they're
it was MGP
because that was what they both used.
But we don't know that for sure.
We
need some clarification from
as
Boone
usual,
County.
we're not very well informed. Our next story is releases from Woodford Reserve. They've released the latest in their Distillery Series, Tawny Port Finish. It is a rye and bourbon blend finished in Tawny Port barrels. No additional details, such as the length of the finishing time, are provided. A number of sites have posted information from a press release stating that this is a rye and bourbon blend with some of the bourbon finished in Tawny Port casks and then blended with additional bourbon. However, on Woodford's website and on the bottle label, it says the opposite, that it is a rye and bourbon blend finished in Tawny Port barrels, then blended with unfinished bourbon whiskey. So, which is correct? I'm assuming the bottle and the website, and that the press release is incorrect, and it's just been reposted multiple times, so now it's sort of fact, but it's probably not correct.
if you go to Woodford Reserve's site, you can order that bottle right now online, and it says specifically what you said. It is the rye bourbon finished in Tawny Port barrels and then blended with additional bourbon to
rye bourbon blend finished in Tawny Port barrels, then finished.
The two, yes.
You said rye bourbon. Just
well, excuse me. The rye and the bourbon blended in the Tawny Port barrels. So you could order those online, and actually you can order and have them shipped to you. Not that we need to do a plug for Woodford, but there's a lot of distilleries now in Kentucky that will ship. They have third parties, companies that they use to ship from. So you could ship legally to Kentucky, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Nebraska, and DC.
Yeah.
So
if you're in those states,
you can still buy. Yeah, you can buy bottles online. I think they limit it 2 per customer, but
that's at 90.4 proof, the standard Woodford proof, and it's $64.99 for a 370 milliliter bottle.
That's standard size right now for those Distillery Series, correct?
And it's what the price is basically.
Yeah, the price has gone up.
So you're talking 130.
Yeah, back in the day, it used to be $49.99.
I think it was less than that when we.
No, it was $50 for the.
Was it?
Yeah,
I thought they were cheaper.
No.
All right, so moving on to Michter's. So Michter's 10-year rye returns in June 2025 as a premium Kentucky-style single-barrel whiskey bottled at 92.8 proof and priced at a suggested $210. Selected by Master Distiller Dan McKee and Master of Maturation Andrea Wilson, each barrel is chosen for optimal maturity and flavor development rather than age alone. According to Andrea Wilson, one of Michter's defining characteristics for our rye whiskey is the balance of the beautiful baking spice with fresh citrus and floral underpinned by notes of vanilla, caramel, chocolate, and sweet oak. This Kentucky-style rye differs from the styles from Indiana and other parts of the U.S., and it reveals a refined elegance and harmony of flavors. I said the price, I said the proof. So, yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan of the Michter's
You really
10-year
like the
rye.
Michter's 10-year rye.
Yeah,
correct.
I know. Its price is obviously a little bit above.
It's creeped up, yeah.
And above average these days, but Michter's has always delivered on the quality level. And, I mean, this has always been a fantastic rye. I haven't tried this year's release, but I'm sure it will live up to expectations.
Sure. They're the way they age, they do different things for their barrels, right? Their barrels are seasoned for almost 24 months.
At least.
Before
I don't know
they're
the
even
10 years specifically.
Before they're even, charred or toasted. So and their lower entry proof really shows. I think it just shines in that rye whiskey in particular. You've always, and I don't know anybody, even folks who don't normally drink rye, have tasted that rye and go, wow.
Yeah, it's a fantastic rye.
It's really
good.
good.
It's one of my favorites. So.
Yeah.
Looking forward to trying this year's.
Yeah.
So the next is World Whiskey Society has introduced its latest addition to their portfolio, the American Light Whiskey Cigar Blend Gothic Edition, aged 20 years. It's quite the mouthful. And bottled at 96 proof. Crafted with 6 different cask finishes: cognac, Tawny Port, Awamori, tequila, PX Sherry, and Madeira. This blend was designed to pair with a fine cigar, and each barrel type contributes its own unique layers of flavor, from rich dried fruits and dark chocolate to subtle spice, citrus, and herbal nuances, according to the distillery. The blend of different finishing casks sounds pretty interesting. I had never heard of and I can't pronounce it, Awamori. So it turns out that that's a distilled spirit that's indigenous to Okinawa, Japan. It's made from rice and inoculated with black koji mold.
Nice.
And then fermented with yeast and distilled and aged. Well, I mean, isn't the koji mold what's used in sake? And
yes.
So, but I think that's white koji, and this is with black koji, so it's another distinction. I'm hardly a sake or Japanese spirit expert, but a little bit that I know there goes a long way, or not. In addition, what I thought was unusual is that light whiskeys, I mean, they're sort of known for being much higher proof. In fact, I think every light whiskey we have is over 140 or more.
It's near hazmat.
So to have one at 96 is pretty unusual. I don't think I've ever seen one that's even close to that lower proof range. So sort of interested in seeing what that tastes like. Mm-hmm. And it's priced at $169.
I'm kind of surprised it's priced that reasonably, given all the different barrels they use. Those barrels aren't free. No. So when, distillers decide to use, or blenders decide to use different barrels for finishing, they have to purchase those barrels. So that's 6 barrels? It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't think it said where it came from, but there's only pretty much one place that I know of that has 20-year-old light whiskey. So we'll have to assume that it's from our friends in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, MGP.
Yeah. I don't know much else about, we don't see the World Whiskey Society whiskey here very often, if at all. I see it in other states when we travel, but I don't see it on our shelves here, so I don't really know much about it. But isn't it mostly available online to their members?
You can buy everything online. You can buy this. No, well, some things are available to their members, and some are available to their members only. That's one that we had talked about recently. This one's available to anybody. And so we've reviewed a couple of theirs on bourbonobsessed.com.
Yeah. All right.
So anyway,
check it out. That sounds interesting.
I mean, maybe the price is actually kept low by that proof being lower, by that proof being 96. And 20-year-old light whiskey doesn't cost what a 20-year-old bourbon does. Mm-hmm. So, you've got that too. But yeah, I think 169 is reasonable price for what sounds to be a complex, interesting blend.
That would be true.
All right, so next is the latest from Cathead Distillery, and as you know, they make the Old Soul brand, and they are the first legal distillery in Mississippi, and they released the first expression in their estate collection, a 100% wheat whiskey bottled under the Old Soul brand. According to their website, our estate collection represents a true grain-to-glass production where every aspect from growing the wheat to bottling the final product takes place in Mississippi. The first release from this collection, this 100% wheat whiskey, was pot distilled and aged for 7 years in new No. 3 charred oak barrels. The final product is a carefully selected blend of the finest barrels out of a 14-barrel lot, bottled at a robust 100 proof. It is priced at $75 for a 750 milliliter bottle on their website. And that sounds pretty interesting. I don't know if we'll actually see it up here, but
we get a couple
I'd like
Old
to give
Soul
it a try.
bottles. Liquor Barn, in particular, used to do picks from them, so we would see them on the shelf. Yep. Cathead's in Jackson, Mississippi. We have 2 other distilleries we're going to talk about with their releases after this, but the interesting thing is I didn't know much about them because we just don't see their products here on the shelf. But I looked it up. They all started in 2010. So I think Mississippi's laws had changed. They were the last. I did read, according to their website, Mississippi was the last state to change from Prohibition in 1966. So they are a little slow to the game, apparently. But so Cat had started in 2010, and they are still going strong, which is great. So they're, you've liked some of the Old Souls that they've put out. It would be...
Yeah, I mean, really haven't had very many. I've reached out to the PR people on this.
Oh, to see if they could get you a sample?
Yeah, I'd love to review it and give it a try.
I'm also amazed how many people are putting out wheat whiskeys now.
With that, yes.
I mean, it's, Makers just released their Star Hill Farms wheat whiskey. Heaven Hill had a 19. Who else is... There's been more than that.
Yeah, there's definitely more than that. But
those are the 2, but those are all this year. So
there's been a couple others this year.
This
I'll probably
is
look around the room and see.
Yeah, this is a third. It's surprising that I guess wheat's having its heyday.
Well, what I thought was interesting about this, though, because they're calling it the estate collection, and they're talking about all the estate grown and produced, but yet I don't see that it's got the estate whiskey certification on it, which we've talked about on.
Maybe they don't have
shows.
that. Maybe they don't have that for Mississippi, because isn't usually it's not a national thing, is it?
No, it is.
Oh,
it's
it is.
From
Okay.
University of Kentucky, that estate whiskey.
Okay.
I forgot, coalition, whatever, society.
Okay.
And, I mean, I think you just can join and you can put that certification, and then it says, what the specific rules were, which I think 80% had to be grown within,
Okay.
I don't know, a short distance or
I
distillery-owned lands. Yeah, it's that certification that just came out a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Now. I mean,
I must not have read your newsletter. I'm
well,
sorry.
I know. Don't make me say it. Well, apparently I didn't either because I don't know all the specifics. We can go back and read my newsletter where we talked about it. And it was actually on a prior podcast episode. Dean and I actually talked like we knew what we were talking about. All right, so next, Glacier Distilling, another distillery that I was not familiar with, is about to release the first 12-year-old whiskey crafted 100% in Montana, and it is a wheated single malt. It's called Logan Pass Wheated Single Malt, aged 12 years. According to the distillery, Logan Pass is the first 12-year-old whiskey 100% crafted in Montana. This unique recipe is distilled from a mash of 43% malted wheat and 57% malted barley. It has been aged in X-rye whiskey barrels and bottled at cask strength, according to the distillery. It is a single barrel which yielded 189 bottles, the first bottle of which will be auctioned off with 100% of the proceeds going to the Glacier Institute. It arrives in their tasting room on May 30th, which was, yesterday? Mm-hmm. And it's bottled at 112.2 proof. The price was not provided. I would love to give this a try, too. I mean, very interesting wheated single malt with the interesting mash bill. But I think we have to take a trip to Montana.
Well, I think we're going to take a trip to Montana.
but I'm not sure it'll be there by the time we get there.
No, this place is interesting because it is literally right outside of Glacier National Park. I looked it up because, again, not familiar that there was a Glacier Distillery.
It wasn't there when we were there.
No. Again, this one also...
Which I guess was not 12 years ago.
They got licensed in 2010, but they didn't, really start the business until late 2010, and they are located 26 miles northeast of Kalispell, so it's like a 35-minute drive right towards the park. And that's not a main park entrance. It's just kind of like, the angle towards the park. Mm-hmm. So they get some pretty cool weather all year long. It'd be great to visit them and see how they do it. I think they pot still. They use pot stills.
Yeah. Well, it's made like a single malt. And it's going to have a similar environment.
This would be really...
Yeah, I would
really cool place to visit. Kudos to Glacier, and we apologize that we were not aware of your existence, but now we are. So
yeah,
shout out to you guys and congratulations on a 12-year product.
Yeah,
that's pretty fantastic.
Cool. So our next release is from Kings County Distillery. They're releasing the 9th edition of a single malt whiskey, but it's the first of theirs to bear the new American Single Malt designation. The blend is comprised of 25 total 15-gallon ex-bourbon barrels, 9 made with Erie Pale Ale New York Craft Malt, and others made with a combination of Golden Promise and a medium peated malt. Aged between 3 and 6 years, this batch compares to lighter Highland malts and Japanese whiskeys, according to the distillery. It's bottled at 90 proof and priced at $69.
Yeah, the 9th edition, that's pretty exciting. Kings County has also been around since 2010.
Yeah, they've been around for a while.
Right. Now they're, I just read, they had moved. They were located in a different part of New York area. Now they are on the Brooklyn side by the naval shipyards, I guess, being that I think it's probably an industrial area. But they do all kinds. I mean, they do bourbons. They do estate ryes. So the single malts, I think, is pretty much what they came out with first, before they started releasing their bourbons and their ryes.
Really? That's...
Yeah, because
I've had some of their things over the years, and I think they've mainly been bourbons and ryes.
I had seen their single malts on the shelf before their bourbons and ryes here, but...
Well, they had some issues earlier on with, I think, Irish whiskey style on the label. There was lawsuits at the time. I don't remember how it all turned out. But
it must have turned out okay because they've been in business and they're continuing to go.
Well, I don't know if they were actually lawsuits, but I think it was some cease and desist. I'm pretty sure it was Ireland, not Scotland. But either way, it's not an issue now since there's American Single Malt.
Yeah, so this is great. And then also the Golden Promise is what struck me because that is what Balcones uses.
Yeah. Because it was used for single malts for quite a while, but then it sort of fell from grace just because it's the usual less efficient grain. Yep. Then everybody's gone to things that they can get higher crop yields and stuff like that. But it makes a very good whiskey.
Right. So they're using some of that as well, which is great. It's just it's terrific. This is very, very exciting. I'm glad to see them doing well. Yeah,
I'd like to try that as well.
Your list is getting pretty long.
Your list is always long. All right, so the last one is a very interesting set. So Milam Greene from Texas, the Answer Straight Bourbon is a groundbreaking 2-bottle release that compares identical bourbon aged for over 5 years in 2 distinct climates, Kentucky and Texas. Distilled from the same mash bill of 70% corn, 22% malted rye, and 8% malted barley, one batch matured in Bardstown's cooler, more humid conditions, finishing at 108 proof, while the other aged in Blanco, Texas's hotter, drier climate, resulting in a bolder 116 proof. This $149.99 set, packaged in a bespoke wooden box, offers whiskey lovers a unique opportunity to taste side by side how climate alone can shape a bourbon's flavor and character, according to the distillery. But I just had the opportunity to taste this week with on a virtual tasting, and it was Karen sort of listened in from the side, but it was a very interesting. I mean, the different flavor. So these were all. This was distilled at Bardstown Bourbon Company, and some was aged there, and some was aged in Texas. And the difference in the two areas of aging was just remarkable, and also how they behaved in a blend. So it's a very cool set.
Did you have a preference for the Texas or the Kentucky? Or could you blind them and tell the difference? Would you know?
I think you'd know. They have the characteristics. Yeah. I mean, the Kentucky one has sort of some more fruity and floral notes, and the Texas one gets a little more of the wood character and a little more spice, and they definitely were different. And honestly, I started off, I don't want to get kicked out of Kentucky, but I started off, but it was all distilled here, so it's okay. I started off liking the Kentucky one best, and then by the end, I think it was the Texas one that I preferred. It was somewhat more complex. And
did anyone ask the question of what was left in the barrel from each area? Do you know what I mean? Because the Texas aged was 116 proof, which tells me they lost more water.
Oh yeah, it's in the information
it is.
Somewhere.
Okay.
I think the loss in Kentucky was 2 to 4% per year, and in Texas it was 10.
Wow.
So I'm sure the Texas yielded much less.
Wow. Well, you can go on Milam Greene's website, and they still had sets for sale. I don't know if they were sold directly through Milam Greene, but it directs you to I think it's a third party again.
Well, I'm guessing it's sold through Big Thirst's marketing.
But anyway, I'm excited about that. That's a really cool experiment they did that the public gets to try.
No, it's
that
really
doesn't
cool.
Usually, distilleries frequently experiment. We just never hear about it, and they don't make it into the bottle.
Some do release those distilleries, experimental
but this
lines.
is like, here,
out
there, check it out.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
The whole, it was one of the, by far, most interesting tastings I've ever been to. And the thing is, they also have the chemical analyses of these to back up what the flavors are. Like the chemical composition of the Kentucky one has more of the, I think, esters that give it the fruitier notes, whereas more of the barrel compounds are in the Texas one. So it's not just, so it's real science. I mean,
we've been to Milam Greene down there
cool.
in Blanco, and it is west, not quite due west, but a little south and mostly west of Austin. It is definitely dry,
warm,
and warm. It is quite the hot place, particularly in the summer. So it's really it's exciting. I like what they did, and you got to try it and you liked it, which is even better.
Yeah, well, I like the novelty of the set. I like the science geekiness behind it, and everybody who was on the virtual tasting felt the same way. I mean, we all it's definitely worth giving a try yourself if you are a bourbon geek.
Yeah.
All right,
For
Karen.
sure.
Well, that about does it for this episode. I hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed New Bourbon Releases News Podcast, the commercial-free and therefore money-free Bourbon Podcast. Be sure to join us next Monday for our Bourbon and Distillery News Podcast. We already have quite a bit to talk about. Also, be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to tell all your friends, too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to find out to check out some of our over 300 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. While you are there, you can also sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. Finally, I can be found on Instagram at bourbon_obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed, and would love for you to follow me there as well. Karen, do you want to be found? Where can they find you?
I do not want to be found.
And there you have it. But she's actually a pretty nice person. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Cheers.
So long.